I've noticed this show has been gaining a little bit more traction on Reddit, hi fans, and with the influx of potential new viewers from there come an influx of potential new questions, as some people who are new to the show seem a little bit confused as to what we do here and what's going on. To paraphrase a few questions I've received, why does he wear an SS Halloween costume all year round? Why does he whine from behind a podium of toys? Why does he wear gloves? What's the deal with the glasses? Some of the more common questions. What's with the fetish involving pogs? Why does he keep wearing so many masks? Why is he so creepy? What's the deal with the masks? What is this guy, some sort of creeper? Who's that fat creep? Well, I'm going to put all of your questions to rest once and for all. You see, it's all connected. There's always a reason for what I do, and the reason is thus. Brace yourselves, because this is going to show how everything's interconnected and everything works. See, the reason is... Kickstarter has proven to be a controversial platform for a number of reasons, and any one of those controversies would make for a great discussion topic. This week, however, I want to talk about one that hits closer to home, as it involves what I guess we could call my profession, whatever that means, and how it relates to the crowdfunding of video games. Recently, I was privy to a debate between former colleagues and peers about the potential problems of games journalists and media backing Kickstarter projects. Now, this is not an entirely new discussion. In fact, for quite some time, there's been a pretty strong split between those both within games media and without it, between the opinion that games media have no place backing video game Kickstarters and the opinion that it's fine. Those against the idea consider it a potential conflict of interest, that you certainly can't review or cover that game if you back it on Kickstarter, and you shouldn't even be doing it in the first place because you ought to maintain professional distance, a separation of church and state, if you will. Others claim it's no different than a reviewer going out and buying a game they're covering. They're financially supporting a company either way, and so there's no harm, no foul. Financial support in the pro camp isn't a conflict of interest if you've got no real personal involvement with the developer, which you then hide when talking about the game. That is traditionally what a conflict of interest is, a strong personal involvement with someone you're doing business with, which you're putting before the interests of your customers or company. Since backing some random game on Kickstarter is neither doing business with them or getting into a personal relationship, it's all fine, at least from the pro camp. And I think you can tell which side I'm on already, yeah? Fact is, I back games on Kickstarter and have been doing so more frequently of late. I always publicly announce when I've done so on the Twitters, and I have an updating about page on the Jimquisition.com where I make note of the games I've backed. I'd go as far as to say that I don't even consider the disclosure of Kickstarters necessary, so impersonal do I find the practice, but I disclose anyway because I know my audience appreciates it. So why do I, traditionally a game reviewer, contribute to Kickstarter campaigns? The short answer is this: I consider it the opposite of a conflict of interest. I back the games that represent the change I want to see happen in the video game industry. As an outspoken pundit as well as a critic, I consider it not a conflict of interest, but a financial affirmation of interest. I back games I consider having what it takes to provide something the industry is sorely lacking. As someone who often laments the state of current big-budget video games, this is me putting my money where my mouth is. It's not just financial support for a product for me. I feel a goddamn responsibility as a drum-beating loudmouth to back games that are doing what I wish games would do. Here are a few examples of games I've backed and why I did it. Legend of Hyrule was recommended to me by a fan who thought I'd be into the idea of a pretty-looking Metroidvania starring a cool lady protagonist, and they were right. I dug its ambition, its look and sounds, and the fact it was serving a style of game we just don't get enough of anymore. In a world of cynical retro indie games, this looks set to be an example of a retro game done with actual attention and care, so I'm looking forward to it. The Miskatonic scored points with me for doing something fucking interesting with Lovecraft for once, making a visually gorgeous comedy adventure game starring a proclaimed weirdo lady girl and proudly naming Deadly Premonition as one of its main inspirations. With a diverse cast, a unique marriage of visual novel and survival horror, and a protagonist that, I must confess, is adorable as hell, I just had to help make it a real thing. It ticks all my boxes. I quite proudly backed Bloodstained Ritual of the Night out of sheer spite. There's no way the man man who proclaims fuck Konami on a near daily basis couldn't support Iga getting out of that publisher's shadow to produce the Castlevania game Konami doesn't have the guts to make. Perhaps more than any other, I was duty-bound to back this one, because Konami is Konami, and Konami is the worst. This is a Kickstarter that helps prove that publisher wrong, so fuck Konami, take my money. Similarly, and I don't speak for the developer, I consider Yooka-Laylee a big middle finger at AAA publisher misconceptions. In a world where Rare has mostly been reduced to making distinctly unrare games, having a whole bunch of studio escapees making their own spiritual successor to Banjo-Kazooie was another chance to prove the focus-tested world of big budget games wrong. As for Friday the 13th, well, I think it's obvious why I backed that game. So the Amazon reviews said this mask was too big. And I thought, well, I've got a big head, it won't matter, so I bought it for a cutaway gag. This was just going to be a cutaway gag, but I've really got to point out how fucking big this is. I have a large head as it is, and there's enough room for a prematurely born infant in here with me. It's really quite ridiculous. I get full 360 movement in here, while barely moving the mask. I'm not even looking through the eye holes. I'm looking through the mask. The hockey bit. Most recently, Indivisible on Indiegogo has earned some of my doubloons, partly because the studio behind it was dicked over by Konami, so they already had my commiserations, but also because their campaign is one of the most honest and open crowdfunded projects I've seen. As I've tried to demonstrate with my own Patreon, being frank and honest with your audience is crucial, and this is a team that has refused to sugarcoat exactly how much money it needs. It's not lowballing us, it's clearly breaking down what costs what, and it has a playable prototype that is fucking amazing. Once again, this is a project that does things I've practically demanded from the industry over the years. It's the opposite of the Red Ash debacle. I take it as a goddamn responsibility to do more than just talk and actually put some cash behind the thing. As a crowdfunded dude, I consider myself paying it forward. All these examples listed, I'd have no trouble reviewing. Should any of these games turn out to be shit, you can be damn sure I won't sugarcoat it. I showed faith in these productions, and I expect my faith to be rewarded with quality work. As you've seen with my Payday 2 coverage, don't make me regret showing faith in you, because I will not show mercy. There's this misconception that crowdfunding a game makes you want to be nicer to it. Well, that's certainly not true in my case. It gives me all the more reason to look at it with a scrutinizing eye. More than my dollars ride on these games, my desire to see well-made examples of these games in the industry rides on them too. It benefits me not a jot to gloss over them if they're bad. Should any journalist or pundit or reviewer choose not to crowdfund games, I understand why and I respect the choice, but hopefully I've made it clear why I, personally, do not consider it an issue or a conflict of interest. Backing these games supports my writing and my videos rather than undermines them. The games I back are games I feel the industry needs more of. I also do understand that my position in games media is kind of odd. I mean, I'm no longer in traditional press, but I'm still a reviewer. I provide written critique as well as punditry, so I kind of straddle the line in that way. Not that straddling things in odd ways is bad. I quite like it. But that's another topic for another day. Either way, the message I feel is clear. If your motives are pure, Kickstarter isn't something I feel any member of games media ought shun. If anything, it could be an excellent way to walk the walk after you've done talking the talk. Now back to straddling. Now, as I say, I'm a big fan of straddling in many situations. I like to be straddled, I like to straddle, you know, it's all good. Obviously, if you're a fat fuck like me, straddling's a little more difficult, but you just gotta have ingenuity, a little bit of elbow grease, not literally, don't grease your elbows, that's not a pleasant way to go for anyone. But I mean, do consider it. It's something, not that, I mean the straddling and putting the effort in, not the elbow grease stuff. Don't grease your elbows, that's what I'm saying. You've got no reason to shove your elbow into anything, so just leave that alone. That's what I'm telling you right now. Just leave that whole part of it out of it, because it's only cause for trouble in the long run. You know, you don't want to go to the hospital and have to tell the nurses that you've got an elbow stuck up yourself. And now I'm just thinking about how you would get your own... Incidentally, I mentioned Payday 2 in that video, and just as a quick follow-up to that, last week we obviously did a video on Payday 2 about microtransactions, and Overkill have responded. If not, they haven't fixed it, but they have tried to make some sort of compromise. The drills that you need are no longer only available by microtransactions, but as apparently quite rare drops, but still free drops. So if you get lucky, you can get a drill without paying for a drill for the safe. Obviously this isn't the ideal solution, it still fucks up microtransactions have been put in there, it's still hypocritical, but it also ties in very nicely with a video I did earlier called Enjoy the Silence, Feel the Noise, where I said that it's important to keep talking about these issues, because every now and then you get a little victory, and this little trudge forward towards some progress is a fine example of that. So thank God for me! Basically, that's the message, and I think that's it. Yeah, I've got to go, because I've got to do something important that's not at all related to this whole Jigsaw thing that the papers have been talking about. So I'll see you later. Bye! By the way, that outro I did about Payday 2, I like this mask, but when I breathe in, it just sort of sucks in. That's horrible. My dog's here. Hang on, I'm gonna do that. Masks are good when I'm having to film last minute in the morning and I don't want to make myself presentable yet. But anyway, the stuff I said about Payday 2 at the end there was done before Almir from Overkill Software did his little AMA, where he blames the media for the criticism that Payday 2 had gotten for its microtransactions, and said, oh, they just did clickbaity, uninformed articles, which I found quite offensive as someone who's a fan of the series, and did what I thought was a pretty damn good video on it, and I think that the media did a damn good job on it. Let's not forget that Overkill went out of its way to be quiet and silent and not talk to anyone about this, and then decided to blame people for not doing their research or investigating. If you're not going to talk to media or anyone, don't be upset if you feel like you're being misrepresented and that nobody talked to you because you weren't talking to them. I just found it very shitty. I kind of found it very Randy Pitchford 2.0. So I figured it best to mention that in just a quick little rough video bit here, just to get my feelings on that out there. It was very Pitchford-esque. The AMA he did on Reddit, and I don't think that was cool at all. So, still disappointed, Overkill. You're very disappointing. I mean, just look at this state right now. This is calling you a disappointment. What's your problem, you little butt chungus? Huh? You little butt chungus.